The following incident, from the life of Empress Alexandra, took place in 1914, before the war. It has been saved by Natalia Vladimirovna Khvostova, the wife of Ivan Sergeyevich Khvostov, an officer in the Semyonovsky regiment. Ivan Khvostov is known in Ethiopia for having translated the Napoleonic Law Code into Ethiopian. This is the account by Natalia Vladimirovna.
The imperial family was spending the summer in Lavodia, in the Crimea. The empress used to like very much to take walks by herself, and for this reason, she would drive out of Lavodia in an open carriage. After going a few miles, she would get out of the carriage and walk on foot in the company of one of her ladies in waiting. Always modestly dressed in a plain summer dress, sandals, and without a fancy hat, she would sometimes go down to Yalta and drop by some church in order to pray unnoticed by others. This she also did on the day about which I am now going to recount. The empress stopped by the Ortsky church, prayed for a while, and put some candles by the holy icons. In the church there stood a group of very poorly dressed people who had come to baptize a child. The priest had already put on his vestments, but the people evidently were awaiting someone, and thus he did not begin the service. The empress had already intended to leave when the priest approached her and asked her to take the place of the terribly late godmother. The empress kindly agreed, and taking the child in her arms, she stood together with the child's father, a poor shoemaker. To the question directed to the empress concerning how she would like the little girl to be called, she answered simply, Alexandra. And then, in the course of the service, she performed everything that is required of sponsors, that is, together with the shoemaker she walked around the font 3 times, holding the child in her arms, in accord with the church rites. After the baptismal ceremony, the empress jotted down simply in the metrical book of the Ortsky church, Alexandra Romanova. In parting, she shook the hand of everyone who had come for the christening, and having asked the address of her goddaughter, she set out on foot. The next day, an imperial coach drove up to the poor house of the shoemaker, the father of the newly baptized, which was on the outskirts of Yalta, and the lady in waiting who had accompanied the empress the day before, brought little Alexandra an entire trousseau, and for her parents a gift of 500 rubles from the most august godmother. Up to the revolution, the empress, no matter where she was living, not only remembered her goddaughter, but also took care of her and of all her many siblings, the children of the poor shoemaker. Of course, when the revolution broke out, one can surmise that little Alexandra, the imperial goddaughter, as everyone called her, had to suffer much with her whole family, on account of her father's spiritual relationship to the Russian empress. This is of course far from being the only incident told me by the eyewitness of it, my sister-in-law, who was that lady in waiting who had the good fortune of accompanying the empress, and being present with her at the baptism of the shoemaker's child. Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna was the incarnation of modesty and of feminine angelic goodness. She strove to do her good deeds unnoticed by others.